Greetings, fellow humans and fellow artists, possibly. I'm Robin, and welcome to an introduction to my channel. Now, I know it's a pretty obvious thing to do, but I figured it would be a good idea to introduce myself through my art history. Well, I say a good idea. I've decided to go back and do what most people would do was a sketchbook tour. I will be doing as a slice vertically of everything I've done over the years tour, with a big gap in the middle and in no real order. But you'll see here that I have a range of loose pages, and I'll have to my right a bundle of sketchbooks of different order and size. A large number of those sketchbooks have 1 or 2 pages filled in, and that's it. Some of it is filled with absolute dross, but to give you an idea of where I'm at now and to where I'm going, I figure it's at least good to see what it was like before. First up, let's look at the pile of shame. I say shame, it's not so bad. So over the years, every little thing I ever made a scribble of, or an idea for, went on here. Or just any stray piece of paper I could find. Compulsion is a wonderful thing. So I'll talk through best I can this stuff, but it's so absolutely random that it jumps around in style and history and quality, so bear with me on this. But a lot of this, you'll find I had 2 periods in practicing any sort of art. The first period was about 20 years ago, and I fell out of art through numerous reasons and means, and only very recently rediscovered or re-allowed myself to discover my joy in doing the art itself, in the process of making. So we're going to look through these bits, but bear in mind they could be from very recent, or they could be from 20 years ago, and some I might not quite remember all the details for. So this is obviously a sketch of a website idea I had called Infamy Obscurity, which was just, I was trialing ideas for different websites. A sketch here of Shovel Knight, a very quick doodle, from 2017, I think it says there, which I thought, I like that, that's not so bad. And now I could probably do a little bit better than that. I've got to work on hands still, but yes, I'd like to, one of my goals is to look at all the stuff in here and revisit it and do reworks, and I'll be showing you an example of what I mean in a little while. There is a second pile of loose art, but that is mostly because they were done in sketchbooks and then removed. Anyway, you'll see what I mean. This is part of a project called The Purple Room. I was kind of laying out how the room would look in my head. A doodle of the Spelunky guy on an envelope. God knows why that's in there. Now this is, you're going to start seeing a lot of these characters. So these are Doom Bunny and Buttercup, Pogo the Mouse, the Pumpkin Seed, and Dead, Dark and Dog. These and the mouse were from one comic strip, and these two were an unrelated thing, and he's sort of an unofficial, not mascot, but a vague loose character that floats around in stuff. I did make a strip or two, or comic or two with them very proto-comic, very poor quality, but I got to the point where I was writing things and making things, but yes, the design of those characters has changed so much over the years. Turn them over so you can see them a bit better. That I think they're never really set in stone what they are. This is one of many versions of a logo that I was working on. I ended up doing something like this on the back of a jacket, a leather jacket, or a faux leather jacket. But the jacket reacted badly with what I used to protect the paint, and it started destroying the material very slowly, but it didn't last. So sadly, it had to be thrown. But it was. I was pretty happy with it, the overall design idea. But I keep visiting this to try and figure out how I want to use the logo. A quick Garfield gone wrong. This is of Mars People, another doodle from SNK, most notably Metal Slug, but obviously he's appeared in a couple other games as well. Skullamatta! Skullomania. This is just a copy of a study of him in a bit of visual art. More thought ideas from the Purple Room project. I always come out with ideas for logos or what I wanted to appear if there was a website or something like that. Another one of those characters, another Pogo. Don't know what this was about. Seems to be a superhero character with a heart on its chest but with a bone. I don't know. So if you've seen my channel, which you hopefully have, my username online everywhere is Iv'e, and obviously I was playing with logo ideas and the pumpkin character as an icon, so that's all this is about. I also have I'll sketch out an idea very briefly randomly and make a note of it. Either I'll save a literal note on my phone or I'll literal draw something to save for later. And I have a recurring motif of doing stone heads, like ancient monuments that have been found. And I also have been planning out a game called IOVU, which is a sort of a simulation game. Brief sketch of the TARDIS in green paper for some reason. Maybe I can find blue. A quick sketch because I picked up a website a few years back that covers indie games, and there was a lot of old branding and stuff around it, and I was just kind of doodling with the character associated with that to see if I could come up with some ideas for rebranding at some point in the future. When I have to blow my nose break. Some more of the skull character, Mr. Deadhead, or Dead. I am going to be renaming those characters. I think this is a very old sort of naming convention I was using at the time, and this is from 20 years ago. So I want to revisit them. Some squid stuff. Again, more of the eye, but integrating the squid idea. For a while I was streaming on Twitch. Mostly games, but occasionally doing art on there. And the squid thing came out of a spontaneous thing. It happened in one game, became an icon, so I started drawing squid things for that. Another version of that icon. Random sketch of a character on the front of a DVD. Some sort of ninja character. I can't remember what the title of the DVD was, but it was one of those D tier, sort of straight to DVD films. This is for Android. This is actually a sketch of another person's character. I was just, again, doing one of those things where you just kind of doodle and see what you can come up with. to update a character, but this was me getting an idea of the design of the character to begin with. Random sketch of me, as I appear in my head, not a proper sketch obviously. Another story idea, just coming up with logos and branding, and thinking about things, nothing much to see here obviously. Random sketches of faces, all quite bad. I was really just getting an idea of a haircuts and just kind of throwing them on there. I had an idea for a story, but autobiographical, so I started sketching out the basics so I could remind myself later. Get rid of that one because it's not so good. This is the Grim Reaper, or one of the versions of my Grim Reaper character from a long time ago, and his scythe, who's sentient and called Roy. He appears in a comic strip called Johnny Dies a Lot. I think you get the idea of the narrative of that from the title. This is the cast, or some of the cast, of the many misadventures of Google and Moogle when I was playing Final Fantasy, and like the idea of just coming up with a comic strip about a bunch of renegade Moogles. And this is another character that was going to be in that, who was a Servpot from Tron Bon and Mega Man, Capcom based, and the ironic fact that I stole some of the title oddly from Tron Bon is not lost on me. Another sketch of myself. Not much to say about that one. Two of the other Moogle characters, Stugel and Carl. This is Bug Hero. He went through a few iterations over the years, and again, Death himself again. Some more of my characters, and a random Sonic character, because everybody has to do a Sonic character, don't they? Kung Fu Dragon, Dark Dog. This is a flea, but would have appeared in Bug Hero comic. This is Carl and Lewis. They are in their own sort of more traditional newspaper, sort of 3-panel to 5-panel comic strip. Again, clearly different versions of Dead there, just coming up with, this is what he originally looked like yonks ago, and just kind of reworking the ideas of the character while still keeping some of the principal visuals with the one big eye and things like that. More Doom Bunny. This is a very monochronic sort of sketch study I did of Jane Douglas from Outside Xbox. We just happened to follow each other on Instagram, and one of her pictures came up, and it was a interesting picture, so I just took a study of it to see if I could get some practice, and it was one of the more striking sort of images. It was quite clean, so that's why I sketched that one. More Doom Bunny and Buttercup, Pogo. This is Carl the Tortoise, and Maximilian McPhee, the funky monkey magician from outer space. Yeah. So I'm going to cover up these two names. There's a bit of a story behind this basic design. I wanted to create a character for my child back in the day. This was when they were 4 or 5 years old. They're now 20. And it was going to be a series of children's books. Far more basic, the classic sort of illustrated children's books. And I was really just scribbling up some basic ideas. But the concept was that the character, based on my child, would go to bed, and then whenever they went to sleep, they travelled through time or space and went to a fantasy realm and met dragons or went on adventures. Quite basic, harmless stuff. Harmful, scar kids now. But it never really kind of clicked for me. And obviously this is a very basic sort of design, but they've obviously changed their name now. I'm going to blur out these bits for respect for their new identity. Yeah, they're non-binary and have a new name. So this is, I don't want a dead name here at all. So I'll be blurring those out for those who aren't sure. But anyway, yes, this was supposed to be for them. So during lockdown, when there was a lot of that anti-vax stuff going around, I ended up sketching out. This is a very early sketch, but it was a syringe and some pills, and the syringe is carrying a sign that says "clue," as in, and it's supposed to be the film advert where it's telling you to go and get some snacks, but it's Vax instead. And I put that on a load of stickers and put it in a couple of places, which gave me a chuckle. I always wanted to manufacture some proper ones, but I never got around to it. More Doom Bunny, just kind of playing around with them. More Iv'e and logo stuff. This is when I was playing a Minecraft world. I was designing the sort of layouts and buildings. I wanted to do something somewhat brutalist, so I was like looking at brutalism and just kind of scribbling away. More Dead. This is another character from Dead Dog and Dark. A Klonoa sketch, very basic. Sonic the Hedgehog, again, why his head is quite so round, I don't know. This is some professional wrestling belt designs I did. I was spitballing the idea of what sort of belts would I have if I had a sort of federation of professional wrestlers, and I wanted one belt that was like the absolute championship. So the person who had it would be the absolute champion. And I was going to get it made up, give it to a friend as a gift, just because they are an absolute champion, But I never got around to giving it to them, and it would cost quite a lot of money. But I like the idea of just kind of coming up with these kind of interesting ideas of designs, more unique looking. So playing with what would the championship belts be like for sort of, different federation groups, and the ones would be for online and men's and women's belts. But this one, the absolute championship, would be one where the person who held it would leave the company, not lose their job, but they could go to another company and another federation, and that could be challenged for there, and then the person there would become the absolute champion. Essentially it's the championship belt of all championship belts that only the best in the world could carry, but it would need to be taken to them via a lot of transfers and matches, and I think would be an interesting narrative. So that's what I was thinking about with that. More Pumpkinhead, just random sketches. More random doodles, thinking about what I wanted to do for their comic strip. Some strange looking swords. A very basic sketch of Asuka, or Kana, from professional wrestling fame. A very basic sketch of my character, Main, from Dark Souls 3. There was another one coming up. Random. I don't know what I was doing here, but some random wings. I think it was just, again, spitballing sort of logos and things. A funny little drawing of Alex Kidd. He's out of work and he's just sitting at home thinking about his glory days. There's that Dark Souls 3 character sketch, which I want to revisit this as well. There's a concept I have in mind, doing a series of sketches of all of my mains over the years from different games. Like some games, they make more sense because they're perpetually on, like Fortnites or Overwatches or whatever. But the more unique ones where they're individual characters and that there's a bit of a story behind playing them. Yeah, I want to look at doing a few of those. A concept I had for a version of Peter Parker, which is a far more spidery version of Spider-Man. Ruined page, I don't know how that happened. Oh, sorry about hitting the camera. So this was a villain for a story I had in place. It was the character was sort of otherworldly and changed shape, and the more power it absorbed, it would become bigger and stronger. And this is one of the mid sort of designs for the look of it. It's a bit more unknowable and abstract. But another thing I want to revisit is this character and see if I can't touch it up and bring it more up to spec. More designs for the characters, an idea of their sort of shape and height and stuff. More Moogles and Kyle. Again, more Doom Bunny, Maximilian McPhee and the Pumpkin Seed. The cast of Super Meat Boy, just a random sketch. A weird undead Sonic the Hedgehog. A random doodle for a video game idea I had, which I'm not going to explain. Thinking about Time Lords, I was thinking about redesigning one of the classic Time Lord villains from Doctor Who. Now, this is a creature I was working on designing while watching a friend while they were live streaming. They're a marine biologist and passionate about wildlife and environment, and I was kind of coming up with ideas for a sort of sprite or a character as a sort of mascot for them. This is again a revisit of all of the skull head things, or stone head things, sorry. So you'll see this sort of as a recurring motif of sometimes if I can't think or I'm getting bored, I'll start doing these sort of as a little signature for me. Random sketch of Pumpkinhead and my name as a sort of, again, bit of logo branding and idea, spitballing. And obviously it was underneath something else I was painting on. Some random designs for dark and a bit more. This was me working out a potential welcome or stream starting image for my live streaming, and there's lots of little versions of me sort of fiddling with that as an idea. Initial sketch. A random page of whatever. Not a lot to say about this one. A really quick and easy sketch of Bret the Hitman Hart. Get more of the eye thing. Again, a random character sketch. He's got a robotic arm, I assume. A bit more of a more finished version of that logo idea or character idea I was doing for a friend, and this is Posca paint pens. More Sonic characters, as you do. More Moogle sort of sketches. A random take on Spider-Man. This is Elise Wong, a very quick sketch in pen. She streams art over on Twitch. I'll put a link to her channel in the description. More characters from Bug Hero specifically. A very surreal take on Venom. A number of characters, some of them my own, some of them other people's, and some of them well known. I think I was sketching up versions of characters to appear in the Carl and Lewis comic strip and just spreading them out to fit that style. Another Klonoa, a lot better this time, but still not quite what I'd like to be able to do with the character. A more Doom Bunny. Mario. I would like to redo this concept as well. Obviously the colouring is not great, but I do like the general sort of my take on the Mario characters. They're a bit more unique, a bit more character to them, so I don't mind them so much. Same for Bowser. Bit of a more stylised sketch of the pumpkin seed. Random attempt to sketch Wario that didn't work out. So you start to get into some of the basic character designs for some of my own personal characters. The titles are terrible for most of the comic books, but this was again when I was 20 years old, younger and stupid, so I would like to revisit all these characters and then rework a lot of it. So this is very heavily influenced by stuff like Jet Set Radio as well. The idea of a gang on roller skates or blades. This disc and sax. These are characters from another comic strip called 8-Bit Existence. Again, I wouldn't do that title now. I would spitball a few more titles, but this is one of the sporting characters. This was a slightly older character from the same comic strip, and he was, I envisioned somebody similar to Simon Pegg playing him if it was like a live action version, but much older, which means Simon Pegg now, essentially. Another character, and the main character from that strip, the 8-Bit Existence one. Just basic clothes and a Halloween sort of costume design. And there's a slightly updated version of the character. I have done a revisit to this character more recently, but yes, it's something again I'd like to revisit along with a lot of these pictures, just bring them up to date. This looks a lot like it's a sketch of John Lennon, but it's not. It just seems to look a lot like him. It's just a random sketch. Another character from Spray and Save. Again, I have a thing for robotic arms apparently. These were some icon ideas I was doodling away for live streaming and websites. I don't quite remember what this was for, but I know this is in reference to Fez somewhat. Potentially I think I was going to write something in there in the language used in that game. More of the characters from earlier, and one randomly of a version of The Undertaker. Makes me look like more of a professional wrestling fan than I am. I'm not quite, I wouldn't say that bad, but some more Mario, just he's wearing some cool shades. A sheep being rained on in the middle of a field. This was a design for a badge, and it's came from a live stream I did for charity. I played through all of the Assassin's Creeds, and just randomly at one point the character climbed up a ladder in the first game, and it says the socially acceptable way to get to high places, and it's a picture of a ladder. This was a layout sort of scribble that didn't work out. This is a conlang I came up with, and just playing with it and an icon. If you can translate that, let me know. I'll send you a prize. Have a quick look. There we go. A very basic scribble of an idea I had for I Over You. The actual design stuff is somewhere else, so this is just some random scribbles. A basic sketch of Lotus Prince. You'll find him on YouTube. He does a lot of Let's Plays, and he's been doing it for a very long time now. And he's also done a couple of really good Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1, not essays but overviews of different versions that did really well. He's a really lovely bloke, so check him out if you get the chance. I'll put a link in the description again. This is a basic design. This isn't obviously the finished one, because I gave that to the person who had asked me to do it for them as a favour. But I did this, they've got a literal workspace. It's like a bar space. And I did a little design of this, coloured it up, of her. It's a bit better than this. She's actually leaning on that and looks a bit more like the real person. You can see it down here, what I essentially changed the layout to. But it's just a fun little bar, and she stuck it, laminated it and stuck it underneath the bar. Me fiddling with some ideas for emojis for my chat on my channel, and this was actually made into one. So was this one, which is of Quark from Deep Space Nine, who you'll see again later. And this one is for anybody who's going to use bits or whatever. A very more update version of the dead character and my take on Columbo in my style. This is me. I'm very new to alcohol markers, me dabbling with alcohol markers and seeing how close I could get to the sort of colour scheme for the character. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a fun little work. You'll see more of Columbo later as well, although in a far more unfinished state. A very basic sketch of Toxic Zombie, who again maybe you'll see later. Another doodle page, just me playing around with markers again. More Meat Boy. More Splunky Guy. Probably what I did after I sketched it onto the envelope, but now obviously just kind of affirming the idea in my head. Never went to it as a final image. A couple of random sketches of Gomez and Giza from Fez. Again, just coming up with ideas on paper for something I wanted to do. I did essentially use these for some paintings, but I won't be showing anything on canvas today. There's quite a bit of that, and we've got a lot to go through, so it's only the rubbish stuff today. This is a logo for a podcast I have that I haven't made an episode of for a while, called The Timeline, and it's like the timeline is literally going through this and then the hourglass. I thought that was quite an interesting sort of logo design. Another random scribble of, I think that was supposed to be a version of me. Another Lotus Prince. He was playing one of the Dark Souls at the time, so when I was doing that other picture I was working on an idea for an image of him generally. Another logo from the Timeline podcast. Aging Up Dark, because I left it for a long time. Same for the dog. Another image from that Mario series, this time Luigi. This is probably the best of the three, but I still would like to revisit them all. A very quick sketch of Delsim from Street Fighter 2 onwards in one of my styles. I really liked this look and style, but I did one of the Nemesis from Resident Evil 3 and the old version in the same style at the same time, and both of them became coloured online. Coloured online? What am I talking about? Coloured on my digitally, and then made into badges and other things. So it was one of a couple of things I really liked. I don't have Nemesis anymore. I still have this one. I would like to again revisit. I have revisited somewhat the Nemesis design, but more spiritually than redoing the design again and update. More of Carl the tortoise. A bit more of an abstract version of the villain character I talked about earlier. This was me coming up with a design potentially for some trainers. I've designed some patterns and designs for shoes in the past, and I was spitballing an idea I had for a pair that I was going to give to a friend, but I decided to leave them blank from them. But this was one of the few ideas I was having at the time. Oh dear, I apologise for my yawn. Random scribble of Daft Punk. Random scribble of a comic book idea. More of that villain character I mentioned. Get more logo. This was playing with the idea of doing a version again of the character for icons and things. So a far more simple, smaller scale version, and testing how readable his face would be. A very basic scribble of Kirby. An even more basic scribble of Coughing, which is my favourite Pokemon, which you'll see definitely later. One of the characters from Fortnite, but the Save the World side of Fortnite, and the character I used all the time in that, who I'm disappointed to say is not in the Battle Royale mode, along with a couple other characters. I'm a sucker for really good visual design and style, and both Fortnite and Marvel Rivals and what else, Disney Infinity, all have very distinct styles. So I bought Fortnite, or got into Fortnite, because of that visual style, and then the characters I liked in that style most never made it over to the Battle Royale side of things, which was a bit of a boo on my part, sadly. But maybe one day, if they keep it alive for that long. Don't play it so much these days. I'm also a bit more of a fan of the original game than the Battle Royale side. Have fun with Battle Royale side, although whenever I play it, but it's not why I invested in it. Random thing. More logo ideas or branding ideas, just scribbles. More of a timeline. Another version of that logo idea, but with the addition of the other bits of the eye logo. More doodles of these stone heads. The gold dust from the WWE. A random page of scribbly, sketchy things. Just a wide range of things there. Another one of that logo. And lastly, finally, the Fiend from, again, WWE, Bray Wyatt's Fiend. Rest in peace. I was really happy with this version of the sketch. I would hopefully change maybe that one day, and I do want to do a colorized version. But between starting this and him sadly passing away, I just never really got the energy to pick it back up again. So, that's my messy sketches. That's the bad part, which is unkind to me, but that's the bad part. But that's only part one. Have a quick drink. Let's get to part two. Maybe get yourself a drink as well. Right. So this is a selection of sketchbooks. They have been put in mostly timeline order. This is not every sketchbook I've ever owned. It's all the ones I can find right now. It's also none of the work I did when I was studying art. And it's also none of the more recent stuff. And a lot of these sketchbooks are less filled than I would like. And I plan to go back and fill all of them, which is one of my big projects for this channel. But to give you an idea And to show where I was, let's go through and have a look at those as well while we're here. Art History Part 2. So this one literally only has a couple of pages with sketches in it. It's one of those ones where I get lots of notebooks as well and end up using them for all sorts. And things get misplaced and left side by side, and then I remember I've got 5 other sketchbooks and I use them instead. So this one is barely touched and it's very old, which says a lot about how much trouble I was having with even trying to do art not more than 3 years ago, for a good 15 years. So this is one of my darker characters. I've taken some things I didn't like about this sketchbook out as well. Either it was damaged or it was incredibly bad, which is why it's a surprise I've still got all those old sketches. Anyway, this is one of my other characters, Jack Raven, and his story is quite dark, but he would wake up finding he'd lost his memory and he'd been experimented on, and then would head off to find out what exactly happened to him and who he was. You know, the classic amnesiac superhero story, you know. Another version of that earlier Shovel Knight sketch, a bit cleaner this time. More pumpkin seed character sketches, and one little scratchy sketch of myself, and that's it. Which is a lame start to this part of the video, isn't it? Let's see if we can improve it. So, a little bit later, a bit more sketchy stuff in here. I was coming up with names for video game websites before I ended up picking one up myself that had already been set up. So I've got sketches of characters from video games and ideas for the name and logo. And the idea of the logo, the website was going to be called Video Game Cliche, and the red barrel was a bit of a video game cliche, and it would be the logo for the website, you know. This is a sketch of Patrick Klepek, which became a canvas, which is around here somewhere. I think it's in my closet, which is really in depth, but this was me scribbling out the idea and getting the look of the characterization of the guy. So this is a very brief sketch, but I did a proper page of designs. Somebody asked me to come up with a new jacket design for them, and they actually went and got it made up, and so the 2 pockets on one side. Well, that's a very basic sketch, just getting me there. And there's another sort of me starting to come up with ideas. This is 5 seconds into a sketch and abandoning it, but it's obviously of Thanos. There's a really goofy sketch of Thin Bella. This is a character from Gigantic, a very basic sort of stylized version of that, and I have no idea what this is at all. Some more squid things over on this side, and here another scribbly sketch of some characters from Gigantic. I could not do justice to that art style, it's beautiful, but I was inspired to just start thinking about the characters. Again, losing my mind drawing stone heads. Another layout for a Minecraft world. And a very basic sketch of a 13th Doctor saying, "Fucking time vortex, mate," and that making the sonic screwdriver noise, except she doesn't have that screwdriver. This was before she'd been given a screwdriver and full character design, so I just based it on the initial announcement version of her. More sketches of the jacket. Well, a couple of random terrifying sketches of broken Woken Matt Hardy. Another one of that character from earlier. And the spitballing ideas. More spitballing of ideas. More spitballing of ideas. Sketch I never came to because it was awful. A cactus. Random study. More deadhead. Some more characters. This is sort of based on my main from Fortnite Battle Royale, and obviously my main from earlier from Save the World, but again I would definitely rework this style. Another character sketch. I think this is one of the characters from not the name of the game escapes me, I'm afraid, but it wasn't a very popular game anyway, but it was supposed to be based on a character that already exists. Random layout sketches. Random Spider-Man face. I'm really terrible for just abandoning pages and then not being able to go back to them. This was me designing my back garden. It's not quite like this, but just a layout for it. And that's a kitty in a painted teacup. And a terrible version of Carlton Lewis up there. And more of the crew from earlier. I don't know what this is. There's more in this sketchbook than I remember. But I want to revisit the sketchbook again. Both salvage some of the things that can be salvaged and then rework everything else, reuse every page. Now we're going to get into the more up-to-date stuff very soon. So about 2 years ago I decided to start painting properly again, and I picked up this sketchbook because it was very thick, 300 plus GSM, to allow me to start practicing with acrylic paint. None of it's super great, but it's a bit of a step up compared to everything else. And it had been such a long time since I'd painted at all. Even the scribbles from earlier, they're terrible, but I was still doing them at least once every blue moon. But since I started this sketchbook, there was a chunk of time while I was at my last job where I did quite a lot, and then for about 8 to 9 months, for mental health reasons, I stopped working at all, and I could not work until very recently. And that's where you'll see a lot of the other sketchbooks have come in, where it's this massive turnover of work. So we'll have a little look at these, and when I get to the point where it starts turning over again, you'll see a sort of change in experiments and styles. But, so first up, we've got the Log Lady from Twin Peaks. She was my big dive in. Pretty basic. Probably could do with more finishing off. Backgrounds are my big weakness at the moment, but I'm really just kind of focusing on getting faces and characters and people and the quality of that side of things up, and then working on backgrounds and inanimate sort of scenes. But I was really happy with generally this sketch and painting. And then we've got Quark from DS9. Again, just based on some publicity art, but pretty happy with this. Some of the colour work needs to be fiddled with. Probably could go over with it another time, but I think I got his skin tone just about right, and I'm really happy with the sort of colouring on the top. As a sort of bit of practice, I'm not too upset by it. This is Io Sky, or Io Shuai, as she was previously known. Not quite as happy with this because you can't really tell that there's the fur collar there, and the face needs a bit more work done to it. and I think I was just, it wasn't coming together, and I stepped away from it and haven't stepped back to try again yet. This is Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I wanted to do in this book male, female, group scenes, non-binary, trans, sort of representation of all sorts of different types of scenes and different types of people. So this was one of those, they had a rivalry and they're a tag team. I wanted to do something around that. Very basic. They both need proper reworking on the skin tones, but I think generally the likeness is not too bad. And Stephanie Sterling. This is definitely unfinished. These should be purple and not pink. And it needs a couple more layers. But the likeness is not bad, so I'm not too disappointed by that one. This was line work for a Colombo painting I was going to do. Still have not gotten around to it. This is a really simple pen sketch of homeless Ian Beale. I don't know why I did this. There's another pencil sketch of him. And this is a very basic sort of outlining work. I was kind of coming up with a layout for another painting, but it, again, didn't go anywhere after this. It wasn't coming together. You know what it's like. You start doing something, it's still not clicking, and you're like, oh, I need to walk away. Right, next up. This was a little sketchbook. I've removed some terrible pages. This is a little sketchbook I had, and I was just doing some sketches of what I was seeing around me while I was at work. So this is a couple of people doing arts and crafts from 3 years ago now. This is a still life of some items that are on the side. There's like a pipe that supplies water up there, and there was a container that captured the water, and little bits and pieces, some food in a tub there. This is the side it was on. Very basic, but just kind of practicing the skills of still life observation. And this is one of the people who was staying in the place I was working at. They fell asleep watching TV, so I very quickly, cheekily did a sketch of them sleeping, which I think is a charming sketch actually. This is a sketch that fell apart. Some flowers in a vase, and everything else from there is literally just where everything started falling apart, essentially. Some chairs. A terrible sketch of myself, but aside from that, there's nothing else in that one. Now, here's the shocker. This is the one where I've actually finished a sketchbook. Mostly. There's at least something on every page, or every turn of every page has something. So this was the last major thing I did before leaving my job, due to mental health reasons. So I did this at the very start of the year. Very quick self-portrait based on a photograph. This is a very ugly sketch of one of my cats. Let's say I immediately knew I wasn't going to be happy with it, and I was correct. It turned out terrible. But it's my plan to revisit that. Both of our cats are black cats, so it's difficult to capture details sometimes with them, especially with this one because he's odd looking. A bit more character work from Dead, and this was based on some dancing. I looked up online. I just looked up people movement and stuff, and I was like, I'll draw him dancing. This is him putting on a tie for some reason, even though he's not got a neck. It was just kind of reworking the general design kit. Does this work for me? I think this is much improved, but still not quite where I would like it. I think there's one of only 2 colour sketches in here. This one's of Danhausen. It was around this time that I started watching and drawing along with Sketchbook School on YouTube's Draw With Me Thursday sessions. So this was during St Patrick's Day, and it was just an Irish coffee, and I did a little cheeky leprechaun in the bottom corner. This is more of those stone faces, but I've started filling in the background, so I plan to put some grey there, just kind of make them pop out a bit more. But yeah, I like this. I want to do more with this as a signature. This was a sketch of one of my co-workers while we were working. And this was on the same night, a sketch of a first aid kit and a phone that were on the wall. Another Sketchbook School Thursday sketch session. This was of a picture of their pug. I think it's a pug. Another Sketchbook School, just upside down sketching. And then a far more improved version of Aska. The scale is slightly off on the mask, but aside from that, I'm pretty happy with it. I'd like to revisit it again and just kind of perfect it, but for likenesses and everything, it's up there. I'm pretty happy. Some of the sketches are dark. He is far less along than Dead is, and redesigning, revisiting. One of the characters from Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, just sketched out quite scribbly. Tiny cactus. So this was a direct in. I'd like to point out as well, for anybody who's not realised, everything in this sketchbook was done directly in pen, no pencil involved. So that's why there's so many errors and little bits that could be tweaked and perfected on. But at the same time, the practice of just drawing directly in pen and then adding a darker line to it maybe was pretty freeing. And I'm more comfortable drawing in pen, to be honest. But this was of an alligator, part of the Draw With Me sessions, but I hunted down a reference for myself and just sketched that directly. And I did one of pangolin, which I was pretty happy with. Kind of the detail obviously is lost over time, but I find if you kind of focus on making one bit stand out, it kind of gives a lot of weight to the rest of it, makes it far more endearing sort of thing to look at. This was a view of Southend, almost finished. The scale is slightly off, but I was viewing from an elevated angle, and there was a set of these small houses that are sort of jaunty with slanty roofs, and they were in a semicircle, and they were interesting and fun to sketch out, and some other buildings in the area, but obviously this area is a bit bare at the moment. My one big failure in here, another Sketchbook School, I wasn't feeling it on that day, and it was to sketch some robots or androids, and I did this and it was just like, oh, I can't be bothered because this isn't clicking. Another sketch from Southend. This was actually on the waterfront. That's a cable, not the sea or anything. It's just a building and a dock and some rubbish bins in the foreground. Some sketches of some sculptures and African art that was in a house I was in at the time. So this is a wooden bust and a little drum there you can see in the chest. This is another sketchbook school, but I decided to sketch Edward Woodward as he appeared in The Equalizer, which has got the best theme tune of all time. The original Equalizer, none of this new stuff. Although I'm sure it's entertaining enough. A nightmarish version of Rimmer and Crichton from Red Dwarf. That's a very memeified version of Rimmer there. Some more object sketches. This was just some random items in an office I was in at the time. And these two, I think we were in a health office, and it was like some bits from there, and you know, a remote for the television screen nearby. This is a couple of geese sketches while I was visiting a local pond, or a bit more of a lake actually. Some more name logo ideas, just playing around with ways I could present my name, my username. This is a study of Paul Cézanne's still life with quince, apples and pears as part of a sketchbook school. I'm pretty happy with that actually. This was the proportions are off. The likeness is not too bad. But there was a project of taking photographs and portraits of people with skin condition, which name is escaping me, vitiligo, that's it. With the skin is pale or loses its colour in certain areas, and this girl, she had a patch down the front of her forehead, but the hair was also losing its colour. And I want to do something striking with one of those portraits and try and do a painting with one at some point in the future. But this was just a basic study sketch. Another redesign or rework of the characters after I recently revisited them. This is not one I'm happy with. This is a lobster done as part of Draw With Me again. I was pretty happy with this one too. A ring-tailed lemur. At this point I started realising that I quite enjoyed drawing animals and sketching them, because unlike with humans, if there's a slight error with a human's face, you're more likely to recognise it, but there's a bit more flexibility and freedom with realising an animal's face, and there's more interesting shapes to practice. So 99 out of 100 times I find that I've done the eyes, and once they click, everything else clicks into place, and it becomes a believable image. And I Draw With Me. This one, they were describing people to us, and we were sketching based on the general idea. So these are done in a very similar style, but these two are actually quite close to who they're supposed to be, ironically. I think you could probably guess who these are, but I'll leave it to you if you want to put it in the comments below, if you can figure out who they're supposed to be. Now this is a sketch of a real life location in the middle of town in Horsham. There's a water fountain here. It's very just basic, with some plants and stuff growing on it. You can see I like the sort of feel of the water flow here. But it was a very basic sort of study of that plant. I was there for a few minutes. Some random shape studies. A very bad basic sketch of a person who I was looking at on a video. I was just doodling. I want to go back and redo this, so I'm thinking of going over it with another medium, see if I could salvage it so it actually looks like that person. This was a sketch of a sweet shop that was in Horsham. A couple more sketches. This is a building across from where I was working. Again, giraffe, and again an animal sketch that, I don't know if this is just me, but I think they come out quite well. So I think that's my strength, is animals. So random objects. Sketch some pennies. Proportions way off. That's Willow Nightingale. I want to redo her face, the jaw line and the mouth areas where it's gone wrong. Perspective was wrong while sketching it, but that's why I kind of just made it very loose on the hair front. So I want to revisit as well and see if I can correct this. Another one to revisit, this was going to be Real Hazuki, but God knows what was wrong with me on that day. I was just not being able to concentrate. A couple of sketches of some flowers. There's a bit more loose on this side, but a bit more final over here. Character from, I think it's not Hunting Ground, one of the others like that. Somebody's going to scream at me in the comments. Let me know what that is from. But it was something I did as a request for somebody else. Nice koala. The movie version of Heather from Silent Hill 3 or Silent Hill's second film. The game version of Heather from Silent Hill. David Tennant and Matt Smith, very roughly drawn as they appeared in the Day of the Doctor. Another one I want to revisit. A random sketch while we were watching Lawrence of Arabia. Looks a bit Wallace and Gromit with that mouth there. Cracking sand, Gromit. Anyway, a more accurate sketch of one of my cats. Again, another one I want to finish off. It's a coo! Who doesn't like a good coo? These look really rough, but they're supposed to be one-line sketches of animals. So these are, again, more coos. This is a sketch of the Tomato Mart as seen in Shenmue 1. Some sweets. Some more sketches of myself. This is the CCTV cameras I had to use at my old job, and like 6 screens. We could get up to like 14 or 20 screens at a time, but these are the ones I would always have up, so I just did sketches of them basically just to practice. Some random sketches of people while I was watching them, very quick, like as they were walking past or pushing something or moving, so it was just getting a feel of their position, what they were doing at the time. A Dragon Tree Sentinel from Elden Ring. Horse wasn't working out, but I was pretty happy generally with the design of the Dragon Tree Sentinel himself. Unfinished Leon Kennedy and Ada Wong. More Red Dwarf. The cast of Red Dwarf series 1 and 2 has done in a somewhat similar style to Lower Decks. This was very quick as well, so I think I can redo this and get closer to the actual style, but I just wanted to kind of see what they'd look like if I realised them in that style. A branded tussock moth and its caterpillar. The famous scene from Network. Some more still life. This is just some condiments and drinks and stuff. This is a sketch of Miyu Yamashita, who's probably my favourite professional wrestler. I was really happy with this one. Could be better, but I think it's really kind of popping style-wise. This is obviously an earlier sort of attempt to kind of get the feel of her face, and then I just went straight into that. Triceratops as displayed in a museum. Hammer from Strange New Worlds, rest in peace. I was pretty happy with this as well, especially love the details around the cheeks and capturing that quite well. Our old mate Columbo, as he appeared in the very first TV movie, so he's a bit more clean cut in that, which is why his cigar's barely smoked and his hair's quite as coiffed and neat as it is. But he starts slowly drifting down the Columbo look. A really bad sketch of the Doom guy. A couple of Twitch streamers, Tellurian and Kina. Again, I'll link to them in the comments. Some Pikmin. And this is a sketch of my wife on the last page. I could use reworking, but it's a very quick, sketchy, scratchy picture. I was pretty happy with the likeness on that. And by Jove, I've actually finished one of the sketchbooks. Only a few more to go. So the rest of the sketchbooks, again, they're mostly partly finished. Or I'm working on them now because they're very new. So this is the last one I had where I've done anything in it prior to my big break of about 8 months. So this was a very quick sketch of somebody who was making themselves a cup of tea. Just kind of leaning out of a door, I saw them and I was like, quick. So it looks a bit like them, but nothing like them at the same time. Another very quick freehand pen sketch. This one's of CM Punk on the night he returned to WWE and hell froze over. This is of my former co-workers. So them sitting on a office chair with their leg up, and for some reason she had her leg up and she was looking at her phone, sort of scrunched up in a little ball. God knows how comfortable she was, but it was an interesting position to see someone sitting in, so I used a quick brush pen and just very quickly scribbled that out. As it says there, study of a rose that was in our dining area. A sketch of David Tennant as he looked in the 60th anniversary. He's a bit more ragged in my version of him, but generally I think the likeness is there. Another image of one of the main characters from Cyberfunk, sorry. This was a study of the seating area. There was 2 televisions in the area, and there was somebody who was just watching something on the telly. Over here, I think either watching something or playing a game on Xbox. And there's some tables in front, but this is what I was looking at. Again, very quick with a brush pen. This is another bit more accurate sketch of my wife. A bit more stylised, obviously, with the hair, but she just started knitting and sewing and crochet, mostly knitting. This was the jumper she'd just knitted. This was a very basic attempt to sketch a big Santa stuffed toy that was next to a television screen, but I abandoned it very quickly. And from this point on, essentially is an abandoned sketchbook. There were some sketches by me, it's come a doodle by somebody else in here. So this was me just talking to them about art at the time and giving advice on sketching and stuff. So they sketched this can. And I was talking about, studying and my methods for how I paint and blocking out colour. I know this what these sketches are all about. And then there's a couple more random doodles. One of a made up scene. Some random face features, like stylized ones. Study of some folders. A very strange bobbleheadish looking Sylvester Stallone in a bow tie. A nice sketch of a tree frog. Another made up scene of a sort of a desert scape. Dewey from Street Fighter, but abandoned after 5 seconds. Pool of trees from Dune. Again stylized, but you can recognise it's him. A python in a hat. Some cake. And Daredevil. But a very quick study of his face. And that's the end of that chapter. Don't worry, we've only got a couple more left. Right, number whichever that was. This one only has a couple of pages used in it again. So this is another one of the sketchbook school days, and it was sketching yourself as different subjects. So it was a very quick doodles, cartoony sort of thing. So me made of fruit, me in a spacesuit, me as Godzilla, me as a snail. You get the idea. This was a very basic study of some CDs I have. I just selected 3 random ones. For those who don't know, just ask your parents what CDs were. This was a study of a pigeon, if you couldn't tell. So, I'd like to add, for these sketchbooks, on the whole, when I came back to doing art a couple of years ago, the sketchbooks I have were, especially with regards to the painting sketchbook, each one is for a different medium, so they can all be clubbed together by type or style. So that's why you're seeing a lot more alcohol marker in these ones, a lot more, like I say, painting in the painting one, and that smaller one had mainly just colourless pen sketches. Which is why I abandoned them, I think, not because I'm giving up, but because I've been taken by another medium. A study of a rodent. Another basic sketch of the cat. I just cannot get him to come together as a sketch, but you can see where it's going. I cannot remember what this was, but it was a sketchbook school session. This is some leaves, autumnal leaves. A terrible likeness of myself. I was deliberately putting a bad, weird face. This was sketching based on themes. A couple of random sketches, just a dark, this is a matchstick with darkness surrounding it, and time, which is the most basic idea, a clock. A random sketch of Hello Kitty for some reason, but stylised. An abandoned life sketch. Do that. There we go. Another sketch of the building across the road where I worked. It was part of the same company, but I never really worked in there. Some more wild fowl. Carolina duck and another duck. More geese, and there were some in the same lake. There's some turtles that have escaped. They've been there for years. This was a sketch of my local town library. So you can see obviously the few I had. There's these fantastic pillars that either look like they're carved out of trees and like semi-organic, or they're big trunks with words carved in them and stuff. This was a more bland version of it, but I'd love to go back and capture some more of that. The worst sketch of Londo Malari from Babylon 5 in human history. Again, I'd like to go back and revisit him, see if I could do that properly. A sketch of my local park. It wasn't going quite right, but I kept on sketching. And just sort of did some more stylised versions of the trees in that park. Another abandoned page. Some more sketches of people sitting in the park at the time. It's just more studies of position and body, getting an idea of posing. The bandstand in that same park, there was an event going on, so I very quickly sketched out a version of that. They were parking up to drop some stuff off. I think there was a concert on at the time. I don't remember what this was about, but obviously it was some sort of branding exercise. And I think that's it for that one. I'm finding there's more in these sketchbooks than I expected. I expected only 1 or 2 pages. For those of you who are bored now, I'm sorry. So I have 2 sketchbooks. One is, this is more recent, but neither of them are complete. I'm kind of zipping between the 2 of them. These are the ones I'm using right now. And you can see this started beginning or mid 2023, and I've dabbled once or twice, but only in the last few weeks, maybe the last 2 weeks even, have I really been back into doing art again. So this was what had been a failed sketch of Sombra. Still not perfect, but I abandoned it. And then I went through and started doing other stuff, and I had the big break. And then about mid last week, I came back and started looking at the sketches I abandoned and seeing if I could salvage some amount of them. So these aren't, as good as I'd like them to be, but they have been saved from as bad as they were, sort of situation. So this one is one of the 2, this is more portraits in here, but there's other stuff in here as well. This is obviously of Sombra. Some random sketches of characters again. This was somebody's child had coloured in a picture of Spider-Man they'd drawn, and I wanted to do a version of Spider-Man whose costume was adhered to that sort of colouring in. So that's why he's quite that unique looking. An abandoned Doctor Strange is definitely one I'm coming back to. And then the leap in quality suddenly happens. So this is still not perfect, but this is a very basic scribbly alcohol marker pen sketch of Adam Moore. I seem to have a bit of a way with doing faces that have age and features like beards and deep furrows of lines and character to them. I think I can capture that quite well. This was another salvage picture, so it was very bad before. Done straight in pen again, so it was one of those ones where when you've done it straight in pen and you know it's gone wrong, it's very hard to push yourself to come in and continue the process and finish it. But I came back a few weeks later and obviously I've redone Raziel from Soul Reaver, alcohol markers mainly, but the eyes are actually painted in glow in the dark paint, so with some light they'll glow in the dark. This is a sketch of Orson Welles in his later years. Again, beards and sort of features around the eyes. They're really nice to capture those sort of features. A smoother face, the less I seem to be able to get away with getting it accurate. Again, not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with that. This is a weird one, but somebody had a Pokemon they designed which was a mix of 2 Pokemon. I think maybe they used that app that's online that mixes 2 Pokemon. But I saw it and I was like, I'll do a fun little sketch of their character or their Pokemon for them. So it's like a mix of the 2 of them. I actually want to go back and finish this off and do something nice with it, add to it somewhat. Unused page essentially. Another Columbo, but his eyes are tiny and too close together, and that's the only thing that's majorly wrong with that. But the style, I think, is pretty good. I'd adjust the eyes right now. I don't know how that happened. I'll be honest. Very happy with this one. There's a sketch of the lead character from Prey, the Predator sequel. Very sort of stylised, but I think it's really works as a sketch of that character. This is a sketch of Amtune, who mostly streams on Twitch these days, but is also a singer and a bit of an artist, and is all over the place on social media. Again, I'll link to her Twitch channel in the details below. But this was her just after she'd had her haircut, and it was just like, I'll sketch that, that's enough. A better version of Finn Balor, with a sort of hint of his alter ego in the background. Not that you see him do any of that anymore, but he's got a striking face as well. This was after he had his nose broken, so it's a bit more swollen than it would normally be. But he's got some character around his eyes, so I really like that. This is slightly off, and I've fixed it a little bit, but it's a frame from one of the Second Doctor's stories. And it's mainly just the teeth that are off, mostly. He's got a very character-filled face anyway, so it's not losing a lot, but I'm still relatively happy with it, but I'd like to try and do that again, or capture him a bit better. This is a sketch of the lighthouse at the start of Dear Esther, which is a video game that's very near and dear to my heart. I find it very comforting in dark times. A really scruffy looking pyramid head. An unfinished Roger Moore as he appears in one of the Bonds promo publicity work. This leopard appeared in my feed, and it had these massive wounds on its face from a fight with another, and I could not capture its features. It was so striking, and I'm pretty happy with that one. I think it's come out very well. That's Iv'e Sullivan, who's someone who's a bit of a muse for me. I think they've got quite a striking look, and they always photograph really well. So I've used them for a lot of references in the past. So you'll see another one that's based on them. I can't quite get their likeness right here, but they're good sort of for reference for me personally. I have lots of people for reference, but she's the person I've got the most images of. There's just some random studies. I was in a pub at the time. My wife was at a meal, and I was invited along. And these pillars here, and then there was an upper stair area with some bookshelves, and it was a very quick sketch of that area, and it wasn't coming together, so I kind of moved away from it. Start of a sketch of the back of my wife's head, but I think I was in the middle of doing something, and it was just keeping myself busy. I would probably start filling out other sketches of people and studies here over time. The second of two images of Iv'e Sullivan. Again, the likeness of the face isn't right, but if it was just study for the shape and the form, I think it looks quite good. It's just the likeness isn't there, that's all. I'm pretty happy with the overall image as just a standalone image outside of that. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin as he appeared in the 1997 Royal Rumble, the minute that Bret the Hitman Hart's music turned on and he started coming out. And he posed this fantastic, shocked face full of character. So I wanted to capture that. He looks like his proportions are slightly off, but he's holding his head at such an angle where it doesn't quite, it elongates the top of the head more than it would normally. And his ears, because they're lower down because of the tilt of the head, it looks slightly off, but when you realise what's happening, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. That's probably one of my best realisations of something from reference. There's a small story behind this, but I posted a canvas painting to a website, an art website, and then one of the people who run the website, they dashed my work quite heavily, and I was like, I mean, I know I'm not good, but harsh, and I thought, well, whatever. And sort of my own personal way of spiting people, I decided, well, if I'm going to be bad, I might as well just do some stupid things from my art. So I started doing a range of paintings and pictures and art based on memes, either personal memes or just more widely known ones. So this is one of Jeff Gerstmann from, at the time, Giant Bomb. And I'll try and find the video and link to it, but so you know, it's he looks, yeah, it's pretty accurate, but it's also terrifying. But this made me chuckle doing this one. And again, this one, I'd like to do some fine art memes at some point and maybe do prints of those. I think that would be a laugh as a sort of feature of something to maybe sell online. The only problem is with something like this, you can't really get the rights to Iv'e the Spunny to sell online. But if anybody wants to commission me to do something like that on the side, feel free to message me. Abandoned bunny of some kind. And then we went to the next meme, which was that famous bodybuilder or sports guy in one of those documentary programs, not documentary, but sort of real life shows. And he was just talking about all the food he eats every day to stay in shape, and he's not allowed to eat anything but fish. So he just kept on listing fish, and this is him in the middle of saying fish, and yeah, it's a bit of a meme in our house now. I started a series I've yet to continue, where I was drawing, unrelated to the other Doctor Who sketch, all of the Doctors, or a scene from all of the episodes of Doctor Who, and this was a frame from the very first episode of Unearthly Child, where Barbara and Ian are behind him in the junkyard, and he's just examining this pot while listening to them. And I just paused the episode, sketched that on my sofa. This is some studies. I'm a big fan of brutalism, and so these are. There was a book in the local library that had a lot of brutalist buildings and landscapes. So I sat down and sat to sketch those, and yeah, this was. I'm really happy with this one. This is a slightly more simple one, but I think the style was really coming together there. This is a sketch, another sketch from the same day in the book in the library, another book, and this is of stars of the golden era of film, and they're all black and white photographs. So I did a sketch of Clark Gable, which didn't look like it was coming out right, and then I think has really come together actually. These are some sketches I did while watching the first Star Trek film. This is of Lulu from Final Fantasy X. Somebody else had done a sketch of her, and I was just inspired to do something as well. So, and I think that's actually all right. I'm not too upset with that one. It could be better again, like all the other works, but I think as just a very quick, fun sketch, I really think it came together okay. Another sketch from the starlets and stars of the 40s and 50s, and this one is probably the better of the two in my opinion, of Veronica Lake. She's kind of lounging on a sofa, and I like the fact her hair was in front of her eye that way, and I like the way the hair's been captured with the more brush pen side of things. This one is nearly there, but not quite. This is because the eyes are slightly off. If I could just get in there and move the right eye to the right a bit, I'd be very happy. I could potentially fix that. Aside from that, the likeness is fine. This is a sketch from a publicity photo. Some more brutalist study. Again, some more study from another book. There's this in the lower garden. There's this big statue of a head, and a sculpture of a head, and then there's loads of stairs leading up to this more striking modern sort of design house. This was from just a study of some haircuts from a book, again in the library. This is me revisiting that original study of Jane Douglas, because I'm not happy with either of them. The features are there, you can tell it's her, but I want to go back and actually draw it so it's of a good quality. This one I plan to go over and redo on top of this literal image. Some flower studies. This is a shot of Sinclair from Babylon 5 in the very first episode after the pilot. The first shot you see him on screen. And it's the first time I've dabbled with watercolour, because it didn't come together for a long time. The colours weren't there, and I just thought I'll just layer some watercolour on top of it, see what happens, and it really kind of improved it. It's not great, but I'm happy to have done the study. And the rest are just studies of other characters. A quick one of David Lynch. The day I found out he passed away, terrible sort of proportions, but I think as a stylised version of him, you can tell it's him. Another abandoned image of a character, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. And the other sketchbook I'm working on, only really brand new. These were for sale in Poundland, and they're about £2 each. So I've got about 3 or 4 of them. Not bought all at once. I've got very little money, but they're so cheap. It's like I might as well buy another one once, just in case they go up in price. They're not great quality. It's quite hard textured, almost like card more than paper, but it's able to absorb moisture. It's something I can play with a little and see what I can get out of it. So I've done a few sketches in here. So this first one is of a character from a story I started writing. He is, it's almost like a circumvention of the tropes of the fantasy genre. So he is essentially a stand-in for a wizard type, but he has done something, used not quite a spell, but he's done something like an art that has corrupted his physical form as a consequence. So the image I had in my head, this was just kind of an early design of the look of him, was that he you know when you've got a light bulb, a glass light bulb, and it gets smashed by accident, that glass is very thin, very distinct sort of shape and texture to the cut of the edge of the broken pieces of glass. So the image in my head was of what happened had left a sort of magic scar that was like the edge of a broken piece of glass, like on a light bulb. And he would start out as a assumed heroic or positive character, and then over time you'd either find out he was being corrupted by what he had done, or he had always been somewhat corrupt, and he would become an antagonist later. But yeah, this was one of these sort of attempts to sketch a version of him, just coming together. It'd always been just an idea in my head. I'd never really sat down and sketched any of the characters. It was mostly just a few chapters of a novel that I'd put to one side. He started out, this is a sketch that I've actually taken out and given to someone, of a bat, cheeky bat. This is started out as a beetle, but it wasn't quite coming together, so I kind of left it, but I will probably return to that because it's not far off coming together. It just needs a bit more work doing to it. This is Cora from Tron Legacy. I did take it from a scene from the film, but the likeness isn't quite there. But that's, frame for frame essentially what it looked like. I think it looks cool as a stylized version. It's using more Posca as well as alcohol markers. The alcohol markers work okay on here. They don't bleed too much, but they're not perfect. And a bit of watercolour on there for the background. So this is, I'm not a fan of the Minions, but I was doing volunteer work with somebody who is, and we were talking about them. They were quite young, this person, and I said I'd do a sketch in their sketchbook, and they did a sketch in mine. So they did this tiny minion in here, so I did one of another minion complaining about the quality of that minion. I just drew that from memory. I didn't have a reference. It's very wrong, but I'm not a fan of minions, so I don't care. So this was a layout sketch for something else I will be showing in a minute, and it's of Houndoom. So I had to check my phone then. Of Houndoom, the Pokemon, and it was for my kid. I did one of my favourite Pokemon, one of my wife's favourite Pokemon, and then my kid had a favourite Pokemon list, so I did one of those. And this was the closest to one of the original visions I had. See, the legs are a bit short at this end. This was just kind of getting the idea of the layout, so you'll see the finished product. Another image of Raziel from Soul Reaver. I'm a big fan of the game, and also I've been playing the remaster, but I've also been playing Disney Infinity, so I wanted to see if I could get close to the style of Disney Infinity characters, so I started playing with the style and made a sort of Raziel Disney Infinity figure design. This was me playing about with a style that I was seeing. It's not very good. I'm probably going to go over that. A tiny kitty. More stone faces. If I can turn the page. A coughing. You'll see this goes somewhere in a minute. I'm very happy with how clean these are. Another revisit to my characters. This is much closer to a style I would like. This is something I'm going to continue working on. I'm not quite sure of the style on him, but it's getting there, I think, for me. A coloured version of Doom Bunny and Buttercup. And I just had an image of them tumbling through the sky, Buttercup being blissfully unaware of the danger, and Doom Bunny being completely blank-faced as always. And that's the last of the sketchbooks. Blimey. That wasn't a long one, was it? Well, coming up to 2 hours. So I will draw out my last few images. So a lot of these were done on different sketchbooks, but their pages were taken out. Partly because I want to capture them on camera and post them online, and I'm thinking of framing some of them just for fun. So, as before I mentioned, I've started playing with watercolour, and I just had the image come to my head of watercolour being good as a medium to represent smoke and toxic smoke, smog. So I pasted and let it drift down the page, so it starts quite strong and fades, it loses some of the blue and goes into a more greyish sort of shade, and then I just added these random drops here, and then I did the coughing there. Did it originally in alcohol markers, but the colours weren't popping quite enough, and it wasn't quite working until I used a Posca white to kind of give it a sort of pop. And then it was like, I may as well just do some of the other bits in Posca as well. So I went over the colours in Posca, and I think that really works well. Pretty happy with this one. Big fan of coughing. So I want to get this one framed. And then the Houndoom for my kid. This is the third of the 3 I did. Again, same principle, using the watercolour and letting it sort of drift down the page to represent the fire around him. This image, obviously the legs are improved here. It's not perfect still, the positioning could be better, the angles could be better, but I think I'm pretty happy with that one. And lastly, now this one looks a little off compared to the others, because originally this pink was in the place of this pink, and down here was a dark purple sort of shade, not really dark, but darker purple shade, and it looked really nice, but it wasn't accurate enough. So I had to go out and find another shade of pink, sort of flip that around a bit so it was close to the actual Pokemon design. I think the rest of it looks really pretty and really nice. Pretty spontaneous with the seaweed, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So that's the other one I wanted to frame. And we've been watching Lost for the first time. Well, I've watched it already, but I've been guiding my wife and one of our friends through watching Lost. So I was inspired to start sketching some of the characters. This is the closest I get to any of their likenesses, and it was the first one I did, and I'm really happy with this one. The alcohol marker blending in to sort of give the impression of this sort of 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Now this is attempt 1 of a sketch of one of the characters, Sawyer. As you can see, this is a bit rough. Didn't work out, and I knew it wasn't going to work out. Still a nice sketch, but the likeness levels aren't on par with the other sketch. So I went and I pulled out another page and immediately did another one. And the likeness isn't there still, but this is a lot closer in quality to the other one, so I was more happy with it. I'd still like to try and get his likeness right, but I can live with this one. The next thing I did was revisit an old sketch I did of the Ninja Turtles. I'd done this group photo of them, or group sketch of them. And I wanted to redo that maybe, but then I just had the idea flash in my head of an image of them coming down from the rooftops to do battle, to help someone. So I just threw this together. Took probably the longest of any of the sketches you'll see here. It's not quite what I want still, but I'm exceedingly happy with how it turned out otherwise. I think it's just some bits of character scale could be worked on, but from this angle, I'm pretty happy with it generally. Our third character from Lost, Ben Linus. You can see that it's him, but it's slightly off, and so I'd like to revisit it. But he's got quite a unique character field face anyway, so it was always going to have that sort of distinct style to it. So hopefully I can revisit and do this again, but I'm not upset with how this turned out. It seems to be the most popular thing I've done as well. I don't know why, but people were just loving this when it went online. This is part of a collaboration I'm doing with my kid, who's also an artist. They have a few OC characters, and one of their characters is sort of a self-insert for them. And their character's far more cartoon, far more blank, far more flat colours. So I took the design of one of those characters and I did a more realistic interpretation of them. And then I used a random picture of a person online to be the basis for the face, and yet the face still looks very similar to my kid. God knows how that's happened, but it's a very similar likeness. I'm pretty happy with this one. Again, it's not perfect. The hand could be redone, but as a quick piece of crossover art, I had fun with this one. We're almost at the final two. Yeah! The last two. So these are both revisits of classic images. I'll potentially put them on the screen or paste them in the details. But this one's of the Nemesis from Resident Evil. And yeah, the old one was very stylised. But I wanted to see if I could capture the likeness properly. I think the likeness is really good. The line art is much better without the colour added to it. I'm not happy with the colour itself. All entirely done in marker, alcohol marker, in what was sold to me as a marker pad, but this is very thin paper, so it's more like the sort of an office marker pad than a art marker pad, but it still worked relatively well without spreading too much or blending in a way I didn't want it to. But I worry that this thickness is not quite there. I do think I'll probably redo or do another Nemesis in the future, but I'm still happy with the quality of how it came out. And last but not least for this incredibly long video, thank you for bearing with me. I did this yesterday evening. This is WhoCast, as they're known from Fantasy Star Online. He was again one of this project where you're doing versions of characters as your main, and this was my main about 20, God knows how many years, 25 years ago maybe, like 2000, 25 years ago. And I'd recently found the original sketch I'd done of this and put on DeviantArt, and I haven't been able to download a full-size original version. I can't find the original art. It may be here somewhere, but the posing is generally the same. So I tried to up the quality as best I could, gave it an actual background, watercolour in the background, alcohol markers in the foreground. I update the weapon so it's the actual weapon it was intended to be, when in the original picture it was a really bad sort of just generic scythe with a monster face on it for some reason. Update the colours and the design of the character so they were a cross between the official art and the colours of the character I had in that picture. I don't have the original save to go back and look at the colour scheme, but this is more or less the character I had. These are the sort of support robots, mags. They're the ones I would have had at the time. So it's all just an upgraded version of that original work. It's not perfect. The restrictions of going back and doing the same pose again means that there are issues with it that wouldn't be if I'd had more time to sort of pose it differently. So I will potentially go back and do another version of this at some point. That you can see there are issues with foreshortening, or the proportions on the character aren't perfect. And he's going to look a little off because of his background as a sort of android robot character. So the padding and making certain parts, oh, sorry about that, certain parts look slightly off. But all things considered, I'm actually very happy with this, how it turned out. Especially with the upgrade to the weapon, I think that looks beautiful. So I would like to do some more stuff around this. And essentially that's going to be my first major project. I have some ideas for things I want to do. One of the things I want to do is a video series where I'm revisiting those old pictures, including ones I didn't show today, and updating them. Doing versions that are upscaled like this one is. One of the other things I want to do is some art where we're looking at books, like how to draw books over the years that I've picked up, and following some of the guides in them, seeing how they turn out based on their guidance. And I have ideas of a number of other sort of features and videos. So, if this has been interesting, feel free to let me know, give me a like. If it's been boring, I know it's a very long video. This is my first video here, and it's a mammoth one to show off all of this old stuff, bad to good, and pointless to fantastic. But, or pointless to less pointless, in some people's opinion, I'm sure. But, until next time, I'll leave you with myself, and I'll thank you for joining me. Please feel free, I hate to say it, but I will only say it in this video because I hate calls to action. Feel free to like and subscribe. Give me some comments what you think. This is going to be the least edited video of all of those that I put up because of just how much there is, and I don't know if I could be bothered to edit it too much. But let me know what you think. Hopefully we'll get a better quality video, shorter. We can do some draw with me's and a range of other things. But until next time, I've been Robin. I'm your Art King, and I'll see you on the turn of the page.